So Henry, it's been an emotional weekend for football. We're here at Wembley. We've just been we've seen Manchester City go back to the top of the table. But really, football hasn't been about the football this weekend. It's been about what's gone on at Leicester and to some extent with Glenn Hoddle as well. The story, the emotional outpouring. I know Paul Haywood wrote a fantastic piece in the Telegraph. You wrote in the Times, and many others have and will do. What exactly has this impacted on football?
I thought it was very fitting tonight here at Wembley that it was Riyad Mahrez, obviously who won the title at Leicester City, that he scored, and his celebration was, he pointed to the heavens, and I thought it was great at half-time as well that the Manchester City joined the Spurs fans in applauding when the picture of Vichai came up on the big screen here. So absolutely, it's placed football completely in perspective. I was at Leicester yesterday. I don't live too far from the ground, and they're a brilliant club to deal with, and there was so much outpouring of support, I think, from the media. I mean, just bumping into some of the radio reporters there for TalkSport and the BBC. They were going about their jobs, being incredibly professional, like the local paper. Everyone was trying to, but you could see how much it hurt them because they're Leicester fans. And just talking to some of the supporters outside, and what was interesting, it wasn't simply supporters of Leicester City who were turning up to what was quickly became a shrine and spread outside the King Power Stadium. It was fans of other clubs, and it's one of those moments when you step back and you realise the power of football, and actually how great men, and Vichai was clearly a great man with the humility, can unite a sport in a strange way, and of course it just leads into so many different debates which are ongoing in football at the moment. Owners particularly, fans being disenfranchised, and yet you just saw the power of the Leicester City fans and the affection that they held their owner in. And it'd be interesting to see if one or two other owners look at that and think, I wish I had that connection with my fans that Vichai had.
And it's, all the more tragic in that it was such a wonderful story. It was a fairy story, wasn't it, when Leicester won the title? And it's turned to tragedy. There
was one fan who was walking along with thousands towards the King Power Stadium yesterday, and he stopped at one particular point. And a few people said, why have you stopped there? And he said, well, that's where I celebrated the title 2 years before to see the match involving Spurs at Chelsea when they drew there. And that they couldn't catch Leicester anymore, and obviously the party went on in Jamie Vardy's kitchen, and loads of Leicester fans headed to the King Power Stadium to celebrate that, and Vichai underpinned that. I think obviously financially, although it wasn't a particularly expensive team to assemble that, but I think he set a culture within Leicester City of this commitment, this unity, which, to be fair, the clubs had. But he just developed that even more, and you could see it with the outpouring of emotion. And social media has been extraordinary with coverage of some of this in terms of the players, how they're communicating. I thought Kasper Schmeichel's post late last night, after it was confirmed that Vichai had been one of the 5 who perished in the helicopter crash, I thought it was a remarkable bit of writing by Kasper. Not particularly surprising if you know him.
Yeah.
I mean, I've interviewed him, and he's a very intelligent man, like his father Peter. So I thought that was incredibly moving, and it just showed the bond, not simply between the supporters and the staff and Vichai, but also the players as well. I mean, for the players, you saw it again with the scenes today at King Power. The emotion towards the family, the bond between the dressing room and Vichai's family is formidable. So from a journalistic perspective, I mean, it's been one of those ones you cover, and you have to absolutely, the core of it is being respectful, and that is respectful when you're talking to fans around the shrine, the way you write it, respect for the family, respect for the sensitivities of the players, who, just reading a couple of the first editions tonight, they're needing, some of them are needing grief counselling.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And of course, astonishingly, on the same day, we almost lost one of the greats of English football, Glenn Hoddle. I mean, out of the blue, seemingly fit, 61st birthday, and massive heart attack, and it sounds he's very lucky to be alive.
Well, he was doing Keep the Uppies on the BT Sport, and then fortunately there was one of the cameramen was trained in first aid and came to his rescue. I mean, Glenn Hoddle's obviously had occasionally tense relationship with the media. I mean, the paper I worked for, the Times, was, he did the interview with Matt Dickinson, and he said things he should never have said, rightly in my opinion, even though I was working for a rival, for a Telegraph at the time. Hoddle had to stand down because of his comments about the disabled. But actually, I think when you look back, obviously that was the right decision, the FA had no choice. But when you look back, what a blow that was for England, the development of the England national team. We'd all been out in Italy and Rome, seeing the tactical intelligence of an England team, with Ian Wright playing up front, and it was a very clever. I mean, England did to Italy what Italy had been doing to England for quite a long time. And then you saw at France '98, his use of Scholes, Rio Ferdinand was obviously emerging, Michael Owen was coming through, and you thought, well, actually England are set fair. And even in the game against Argentina, when Beckham got sent off, I remember looking back at some of the coverage at the time. There was so much praise, rightly, for Hoddle with his use of Michael Owen and Alan Shearer shuttling up and down the side. So and then England almost went into wilderness, called quarter-finals wilderness. But in a way, the strand of Hoddle's management has only now been picked up again.
Ahead of his time, really.
Absolutely. But with Gareth Southgate, who obviously played under Hoddle. So, but I mean, everyone wishes Glenn Hoddle well. The Spurs fans were obviously singing his name. I thought the Sunday newspapers, their coverage of Hoddle, the tributes, whether it was Rob Draper in the Mail on Sunday, obviously goes to his column. Absolutely a good friend. There were pieces all over about about Hoddle, and then obviously for the newspaper and the sports editors on the Saturday night when the news of the helicopter crash came in, they're obviously sort of turning their stories around. So actually I thought the Sunday newspapers, I get the first editions and the last editions, and on ClipShare, and you look through them and you just see how they change, and it is remarkable how people react to such devastating stories.
And of course, as we said at the beginning, football sort of pales into insignificance to some extent, but tonight was a big step for Manchester City, wasn't it? Grinding out a win, perhaps not at their best, not fluent. The pitch was terrible, really, wasn't it? Yeah. But they got that win, they're back on top, they're looking fairly well set on.
Yeah, I think some of the older football writers may say that's an absolute a prestige.
We played on worse, haven't we?
We were that generation. Yeah, we dragged the pitch down to our level. No, I think the older journalists will remember the baseball ground in the early 70s, and probably actually the Horse of the Year show.
The cup final in 70.
Absolutely. So they're playing almost, and you actually look at the quality of some of Manchester City players. A little bit like when George Best was sort of dancing over the divots at the baseball ground. You look at the quality of the two Silvers tonight. I thought Sterling had a good game. Mahrez obviously took his very emotional goal well. But as you say, it was the resilience of that defence, and every week we seem to be praising that defence even more. Even though I thought the fullbacks weren't at their
Mendy was a bit
their best tonight. It's actually quite interesting from a journalistic perspective, covering City. Kind of know if they score a goal,
they're going to win.
That you can almost start writing the opening paragraph of your of your match report, your runner edition early.
So plenty of football still to come, but I think there'll be obviously ramifications from the King Power tragedy still to come on.
Well, absolutely. I mean, tomorrow's match is off, the cup game, the FL Cup game against Southampton. Just again looking at a couple of the first editions, there's still some debate going on about whether the players are going to be in the right state of mind to play against Cardiff at the weekend. I think there would be a certain symmetry and a certain sort of emotional connection if they don't play again until their next home game, which is Burnley at home, Remembrance weekend. And Leicester always do Remembrance well. They have, there are a lot of, I live up that way, and there are a lot of RAF bases. They always have, the armed forces are well represented in their fans anyway, but they do it particularly well. And this is a time when I think clubs show their true class. And I think Leicester supporters have showed their class. The club, the way they've dealt with it, the way they've handled, the media. They obviously weren't going to allow us into the ground, but they said, actually come into, a nearby hotel next to the ground, and we took over a little area there, and there was a workroom there, and there was coffee later on. Just little things like that. Just shows the class of a club at a time of great crisis, and I think that's one of the many reasons why there's been so much outpouring of sympathy for them.
They've always been good at that, haven't they?
Leicester have been absolutely brilliant. I mean, whether it's Anthony Hurley who runs their media department, or when you go in there, you just bump into people like Alan Birchnell, who's just obviously a legend Birch, legend of a player and a real character. And he was talking, I think, to Radio 5 this morning, very emotional, again reminding everyone what an amazingly dignified, classy and respected man Vichai was.
And just one final point, there is the Games of Remembrance with the British Army and the German Army are taking place, women's game and a men's game in Nottingham, Thursday week the 8th. Yeah. So if you can get along to that would be fantastic, because it's a great cause. Yeah,
Notts County, the women's game at 12 o'clock, and I think it's 7:30 for the men's game at Forest in the evening. It's fantastic. I mean, there's obviously they're playing against the German armed forces, and a load of German school children are coming over. They're going to be sitting amongst the kids from Nottingham schools. What a great message that is out there, and I think it'll be a fairly competitive game as well.
Good. Well, support that if you can, and don't forget, keep coming back for the FWA review. Thank you.